Well, that was interesting. I think that's the first time I've been the only person on the boat. Quite an eerie feeling. Just me and a couple of crew members in amongst the thunder and lightning, the heavy downpours of rain. But I've made it across. Now my plan is, I'm walking up and over the island. I'm going to go towards Belvoir Bay whilst that tide is high. Now you'll have to forgive me because I'm walking up a very steep hill and I'm out of breath already. So this could be a really good idea, or my girlfriend's right and I'm an idiot. But we'll soon find out. Now I wouldn't recommend fishing in thunder and lightning storms, especially in the dark. It's a bit of a silly idea, but we should have some breaks in between it today. So although I really don't care about getting wet, it's more so about the lightning. But it keeps dying off every now and then. There's breaks in the rain, so I'm hoping I'll just be able to get a bit of fishing time in over the next couple of hours. Now what I'm hoping is there's not going to be many people around. Obviously you're going to have people walking along the paths, but as far as the beaches go, they're going to be deserted. That's why I thought it would be a good idea to come over today. Now in the past I've been here, I've never ever caught a bass in Herm. I've fished here 3 times, each time it's been in June. Yeah, it's been in June of the year. The fishing has been terrible. It's been terrible on Guernsey, and I've always had the bright idea of going to Herm. Maybe I'll find some bass there, and it never works out that way. So I'm actually searching for my first Herm bass. Now, even though the sea is flat calm, we have a big tide, a big spring tide, which it's about an hour after high tide now. So the tide's going to be running pretty hard. We've got cover from clouds, rain, mist. So really, the conditions should be okay. I'll probably be using surface lures in quite a few marks. But the first mark I'll be going to is deep water. So I'll probably go with a diver or soft plastic or something like that. But I should be there in about 5 minutes time. I've got a 4-piece travel rod with me today. It's a 5 to 28 gram lure rod by Mitchell. It's just a cheap thing, it was about 40 quid. And I bought it to do some live baiting, to have a lure, like a lure rod and reel, to do live baiting for bass. But I've not actually used it yet. So I thought it's easy to carry, I'll bring this one with me today. It's not going to be ideal for some of the surface lures, especially some of these Samson lures I'll be using, because it's a bit flimsy. You want a medium to fast action rod tip for surface lures ideally, and a lot of tide. But yeah, it's easy to bring, so we'll give it a whirl, see how we get on. Hopefully we get that bass. So I'm just getting set up now. Like I said, I've got a 9-foot 4-piece lure rod by Mitchell. It's called an Epic, 5 to 28 gram. What's called a Vairon, Epic Vairon. Now I've brought with me my usual spinning reel, Shimano Nasky 4000. I also have with me a brand new Shimano Sahara 4000. This one's loaded with 15-pound braid, and the Nasky has got 26 pound. So I'm going to start with the Nasky. I've bought the other one just to back up in case I get any bad wind knots or lose line. Last thing you want to do is be without a reel and be stuck over here. So I'm going to get set up. I think I'm going to start with soft plastic, the Evo Bass Sabre, just on a Zora's jig head. And the tide is still quite higher than I expected it to be, which is a good thing. It's a deep water mark here, usually a lot of tide running through. So we'll get a soft plastic out and see if we can find some fish. Fish on. Well, 4th cast, and I'm into a fish, which I believe is a bass, and it is a bass. You beauty! Only a small one on the Bass Sabre. Oh no, I need to get down here. Yes, there's a little Herm Shiner, really silver bass. Chris in the rod. It's only small, but I really don't care. Come here. There we have it. One little Herm bass. Let's get him in that pool. You absolute beauty. Wow, what a start. Absolutely pumped on that. The Bass Sabre. That was 4th cast. And we have a little shiner. There we go. Nothing to exactly write home about, but still, it's a lovely little silver bass. My first ever Herm bass, so I'm absolutely stoked with that. What a little beauty. Let's get him back. Off she goes. Well, that's a good start. 4th cast in, first fish. Now that was just casting sort of into this area, and I was just literally doing a fairly slow retrieve with a few twitches here and there, and it didn't take very far out. In fact, it took quite close in. But let's hope we can find a few more. Oh, these conditions are absolutely screaming out for a surface lure. I'm going to give it a few more casts with the Sabre. I've only had about 10 casts so far, so I'll give this a few more goes and then we'll choose the surface lure, stick it on, see if we get any action. Right, so what I'm going to do is take this off. I'm going to go further to my left because I believe the tide should be running that way now, and I've got a feeling that if there's going to be bass around here, they're going to be sitting on that side. Obviously there's a lot of rocky outcrop here. If the tide's running that way, it's going to be pushing everything through this channel, and hopefully they'll be sitting the other side. So let's have a go with this. Now, yesterday on every single one of my hard lures, surface lures and divers, I've crushed all the barbs, and I actually went out last night, had a bass on the Samson bomb, and even though they're still trebles, so much easier to get out. I am planning on swapping all my hard lures from trebles to singles, barbless, but I just need to order the right ones. So yeah, let's get to it. These rocks are deadly from all the rain. Still getting the odd bouts of thunder. The rain's held off though since I've been here, so that's good. We've got a bit of a breeze coming in here now. I'm going to sort of stand in that area, cast in that direction. Now, the good thing about being over here in Herm is I can film everything properly. I mean, not that I try and hide my marks anyway. I come to terms with all the marks I film at, they're going to get blown, but in Herm, doesn't matter. I'll tell you exactly where I am, what I'm doing. So I've still been trying to work out the tide, and what I think is happening is you've got wind against tide. Now in theory the tide should be running south, which will be left to right, but the wind is southwesterly coming straight through here. So I think obviously the wind is pushing the water like that, but the tide is actually running the other way. But I am still trying to figure it out. Well, we've got some more rain. Now I'm just going to have a few casts with a diver, shallow diving lure, the Vairon, and then I'm going to head towards Shell Beach. But I think I'm going to go and get a coffee, have a sit down for a bit, and there's another spot I want to fish towards the south coast, but I need the tide to go down a little bit more yet, so go sit and have a coffee and then make my way there, and hopefully I'll be able to get onto it. So after stopping for a quick refreshment, I've made my way down to another mark. Now this is a completely different kind of mark. It's all rough ground with lots of boulders and weed. Now I'm going to be fishing into the area right behind me here. I'm going to be going off these large rocks, casting a lure straight into there, and then probably start with a shallow diver and retrieving that on a nice slow retrieve. Now behind the big outcrop of rocks to me, there's another bay on the other side. I may cast a lure into there as well. It's mostly onto clean ground, however I'll be going straight into the wind. Now the wind is about 10 miles an hour at the moment from the southwest, which isn't a major issue, but with certain lures, especially with the shallow divers, you can't really punch them properly against it. So I may clip on a Samson lure in that case and work that across the surface. So I'm down here, I'm ready to go. Hopefully we can find another fish. Now I'm just going to quickly say that obviously if you're ever out on your own, fishing new ground, totally out of sight of people, just have your wits about you, be careful. Even the most experienced people are still going to slip. Especially on days like today, all of these rocks are absolutely deadly. So you've just got to watch out and take your time. Now even though I've not fished over in Herm many times, I've been here hundreds of times in the past, so I know the island very well. But yeah, if you ever fish in new ground, just keep an eye on the tides and your surroundings and you should be good. So this is the area I've chosen to start off on. Going to be casting a shallow diving lure into this. The tide's running through nicely, so hopefully there's a few fish in there. Well, let's just take a second to check that out. The sun's come out. Absolutely beautiful. So this is more so what we're looking at. Now where I was just a minute ago, it's on the end of that head there, casting out that way. And as you can see, completely flat. You can probably tell on camera, it's predominantly sand all in that area. Come around a little bit with another little head peeking out here. And you have a big tide rip there. Loads of tide coming through here. So I'm going to chuck a lure directly into that. Hopefully we hook something. Well, that one followed the lure in and took it at the very, very last minute. Literally at the very last minute. But what was I just saying about that tide? It's only a little bass, but it's a bass. Once again on the Samson bob. There we have another stunning little schoolie bass. Woo-hoo-hoo! In the tide, just like I was saying. That took so late. I hope that comes out and film all right. But here we are, a lovely little bass on the Samson bob. And like I said earlier, I've gone barbless on these hooks now. These hook beautifully. That's our second fish of the day. So there we are, unhooked, nice and easy. Another stunning bass, only small, but still great to catch. Right in that tide and right at the last moment. Beauty. And look at that tide rip. That took right in here as I was just bringing it past that little peak there. Right in there, literally at the very last moment. It could have even been sat in the weed here and just saw it and come up, or it's followed it in. Let's get a lure straight back in there. Just going to get out onto these rocks and try the right hand side of it. See if there's anything sitting on this side. Very difficult to keep an eye on the lure when it's in a tide like this. This rod isn't the best for these kind of lures either. It's very flimsy, but I'm still managing to get a fairly good action on it. Ah, come on. I can really feel it getting pulled and torn about in that tide. So I've just put a soft plastic gravity stick on, and I've had a few casts in this area here. However, the tide is running so fast, it is unreal. If I cast out that way, the lure is at 180-degree angle by the end of the retrieve. Now, one problem I do have now, I just had a little snag. Nothing major, and obviously managed to get the lure back. But as I pulled it out, I heard a bit of a crack, and the front piece of this rod has cracked right where that bit goes into. So I'm just going to have to keep an eye on that. Now, I'm not staying over here for too much longer. What I might do is, since the tide is running, it's running too fast here now, so I'm going to have to move. We're coming up to low water, so what I might do is head back towards the north of the island, see what sort of time it is, how long I've got, and then I might have a few casts at the north side of the island, put a surface lure on or something like that, and then get the ferry back. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun so far. The rain's held off for a couple hours now, which is good. But I'm going to get my gear sorted and head back up this cliff. I just thought I'd give you a quick show of the ground I'm walking over on the way back. Now, all of this was covered when I crossed over. I came up a bit further up where those taller rocks are and then made my way onto there. So all of this was still underwater. But this area here where you've got rocks, boulders, If you fished off the higher rocks there at night time, cast a lure straight out onto here, I'm sure you pick up some very good bass around this area. So yeah, just thought I'd quickly say, these are kind of the areas you're looking at when targeting bass. Always worth a shot. So as I made my way back from the south of the island, I started walking towards the north to go and look at a potential fishing mark. Now, as I was walking there, I looked at the time and I've decided to actually get the early boat back and cut the trip a little bit short. Now, I'm definitely going to be back later on in the year, maybe in the next sort of 4 to 6 weeks, and do a proper day of it, come on the early boat and stay until sort of 5 o'clock. There's plenty of marks over here to fish. It really is some great fishing. Today especially is a big spring tide, and it's pretty much bang on low tide now, and it is absolutely flow now. I can see guys right in the distance over there out on a little island digging bait. I know there's a group of fishermen over here at the moment, so yeah, hopefully they get in some fish as well. Now, we only have a 2 small bass, so nothing to write home about, but still brilliant fun. And yeah, it was also my first bass on Herm. The other times I've come here, like I said earlier in the video, have been in June, and the fishing's been very poor, so it's nice to actually hook into something, especially so early on into the session. So I'm going to leave it there. The boat's going to arrive in about 10 minutes time. I'm going to head home. So as always, thanks very much for watching the video. I hope you liked it. Hope you can take a little tip or two from it, or just it just proves enjoyable watching. It's all about what the channel's all about, really. So yes, thank you very much, and I'll catch you on the next one.